Multiplying integers. The rules for multiplying signs. A negative times a negative equals a positive. Example, negative 2 times negative 4 equals positive 8. A positive times a positive equals a positive. Example, 4 times 7 equals 28. Notice, when you're multiplying two integers together, or two signs, if the signs are the same, negative, negative gives you a positive. A positive, positive gives you a positive. Now, if you multiply a positive times a negative, that gives you a negative. Example, 2 times negative 7 equals negative 14. A negative times a positive equals a negative. Example, negative 5 times a positive 4 equals a negative 20. Examples. Negative 2 times negative 4 times negative 3. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. Positive 8 times a negative 3 is a negative 24. Now, show your work in this vertical fashion. Example 2. Negative 5 times negative 4 times negative 3. I'm going to multiply negative 5 times negative 4, and I'm going to write my answer right below that, positive 20. Then I bring down the negative 3, put a parenthesis around it so that indicates multiplication. Negative 20 times negative 3 is negative 60. Example 3. Positive 4 times positive 2 times negative 7. 4 times 2 is 8. They're both positive, so the answer is positive. Bring down the negative 7. Positive 8 times negative 7 is negative 56. And again, notice how I'm showing my work down the page, going from line to line to line. Example 4. Negative 4 times negative 3 times negative 5. Now, I can multiply in any order. I'm going to bring the negative 4 down, and this time I'm going to multiply the negative 3 times the negative 5. I get positive 15. Negative 4 times a positive 15 is a negative 60. Example 5. Negative 4 times negative 2 times negative 3 times negative 6 If I start from the front, I can multiply negative 4 times negative 2 to get positive 8. Positive 8 times negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. 8 times 18 is positive 144. Example 6. 2 times 7 times negative 3 times 5. Now I can multiply these in any order that I want. I can move these numbers around. I can do this, put 7 times 2 times negative 3 times 5. I've moved the numbers around. That's called the commutative property. It's the commutative property of multiplication. What I'm showing you is that you can multiply in any order. The answers will still come out to be the same. So that's 14 times negative 15. Oh, and I forgot my 7 there. See, that's a negative in front of that 7, so I need to bring that down. So I have a negative 14. A negative and a negative is a positive 210. And I just forgot to copy that negative 7 down for my example. Next example. Example number 7. We have 2 times 5 times 4 times 3 times a negative 2. I can observe this and I know that my final answer is going to be negative because I only have one negative up here. Example, 2 times 5 is 10. 4 times 3 is 12. And I bring down the negative 2. Then I multiply 10 times 12 to get 120. Bringing down the negative 2 is negative 240. I keep track of all of my work by going line by line. There's my original problem. I multiplied the 2 times 5 to get 10, 4 times 3 to get 12, and then I bring down the negative 2 so I don't lose track of it. Then I multiply. 10 times 12 is 120. Bring down the negative 2 again. 120 times 2 is negative 240. There you have it. Multiplying integers. If you know these first rules up here at the top, they never change. Negative times a negative is a positive. A positive times a positive is a positive. Positive times a negative is a negative. Negative times a positive is a negative. The rules for multiplying signs.